Welcome to the AWS Quicksight for Data Visualization and Analytics course, where our goal will be to make the data visualization and analytics experience easy to learn for people from every walks of life. Meet our team of instructors who have created and designed this course. Together, we have close to 30 years of experience in practical implementation of technology and teaching technical courses at a university level. Our team members have specialization in areas of information technology, software engineering, data science, and data visualization. We will have a total of 9 modules that are designed to help the students learn progressively. We will start from the basic introduction of the course and gradually move to intermediate concepts. By the end of these lessons, you will be able to make your own reports and dashboards and manipulate data. Key concepts will be explained visually for our students so they can learn effectively. AWS Quicksight is a cloud-based business analytics service. It aims to provide interactive visualizations and business intelligence capabilities with an interface simple enough for end users to create their own reports and dashboards. Our capstone project will help you understand the overall steps which should be followed in order to achieve the desired dashboards, implementing all the concepts taught in this course. Here are some of the companies requiring data analyst skills to fuel their day-to-day and critical software development needs. Hello and welcome to Data Visualization and Analytics with AWS. Before we dive into visualization and analytics, it is important to understand what is visualization. So starting off with the concept of visualization, data visualization is the practice of translating information into a visual context, such as a map or graph, to make data easier for the human brain to understand and pull insights from. There are 3 primary goals of data visualization. The very first is to explore. Exploratory data analysis is an approach to analyzing data sets to summarize their main characteristics, often with visual methods. The second is analyze. Data analysis is defined as a process of cleaning, transforming, and modeling data to discover useful information for business decision making. And lastly, present. Presenting data involves the use of a variety of different graphical techniques to visually show the reader the relationship between different data sets to emphasize the nature of a particular aspect of the data or to geographically place data appropriately on a map. There are 5 stages of data visualization in general, through which the data is passed to extract meaningful information. These stages include: number 1, purpose. Purpose is the foundation of a project. Number 2, relation. Define the relationship amongst the data. Number 3, visualization. Create visuals for representing the data. Number 4, enhancing. Use visual properties to define different levels of data. And lastly, validation. Validation of data through visualization. What is data visualization? Data visualization is the representation of data or information in a graph, chart, or other visual format. It communicates relationships of data with images. This is important because it allows trends and patterns to be more easily seen. We need data visualization because a visual summary of information makes it easier to identify patterns and trends than looking through thousands of rows on a spreadsheet. It's the way the human brain works. In this slide, you can see that it is easier to answer the questions like which is the most populous city and which state has most cities by looking at the bar graph rather comparing them through the tabulated data. Data visualization has many uses. Each type of data visualization can be used in different ways. Here are some of the most common ways data visualization is used. Number 1, changes over time. This is perhaps the most basic and common use of data visualization, but that doesn't mean it's not valuable. The reason it is most common is because most data has an element of time involved. Therefore, The first step in a lot of data analysis is to see how the data trends over time. Number 2, determining the frequency. Frequency is also a fairly basic use of data visualization because it also applies to data that involves time. If time is involved, it is logical that you should determine how often the relevant events happen over time. Correlations. Identifying correlations is an extremely valuable use of data visualization. It is extremely difficult to determine the relationship between two variables without a visualization. Yet, it is important to be aware of relationships in data. This is a great example of the value of data visualization in data analysis. When planning out a schedule or timeline for a complex project, things can get confusing. A Gantt chart solves that issue by clearly illustrating each task within the project and how long it will take to complete. Network examination. An example of examining a network with data visualization can be seen in market research. Marketing professionals need to know which audiences to target with their message. So they analyze the entire market to identify audience clusters, bridges between the clusters, influencers within clusters, and outliers. Analyzing value and risk. Determining complex metrics such as value and risk requires many different variables to be factored in, making it almost impossible to see accurately with a plain spreadsheet. Data visualization can be as simple as color coding a formula to show which opportunities are valuable and which are risky. There are numerous tools available to help create data visualizations. Some are more manual and some are automated, but either way, they should allow you to make any of the following types of visualizations. Data visualizations belong in the temporal category if they satisfy two conditions: that they are linear and that they are one-dimensional. Temporal visualizations normally feature lines that either stand alone or overlap with each other with a start and finish time. Data visualizations that belong in the hierarchical category are those that order groups within larger groups. Hierarchical visualizations are best suited if you are looking to display clusters of information, especially if they flow from a single origin point. Datasets connect deeply with other datasets. Network data visualizations show how they relate to one another within a network. In other words, demonstrating relationships between datasets without wordy explanations. Just like the name, multi-dimensional data visualizations have multiple dimensions. This means that there are always two or more variables in the mix to create a 3D data visualization. Because of the many concurrent layers in datasets, these types of visualizations tend to be most vibrant or eye-catching visuals. Another plus, these visuals can break down a ton of data down to key takeaways. Geospatial or spatial data visualizations relate to real-life physical locations, overlaying familiar maps with different data points. These type of data visualizations are commonly used to display sales or acquisition over time and can be most recognizable for their use in political campaigns or to display market penetration in multinational corporations. Types of data. Data can be defined as a systematic record of a particular quantity. It is the different values of that quantity represented together in a set. It is a collection of facts and figures to be used for a specific purpose, such as a survey or analysis. When arranged in an organized form, it can be called information. Data may be qualitative or quantitative. Once you know the difference between them, you can know how to use them. Categorical or qualitative data. They represent some characteristics or attributes. They depict descriptions that may be observed but cannot be computed or calculated. For example, data on attributes such as intelligence, honesty, wisdom, cleanliness, and creativity collected using the students of your class, a sample would be classified as qualitative. They are more exploratory than conclusive in nature. Numerical or quantitative data. These can be measured and not simply observed. they can be numerically represented and calculations can be performed on them. For example, data on the number of students playing different sports from your class gives an estimate of how many of that total students play which sport. This information is numerical and can be classified as quantitative. Nominal data. Nominal scales are used for labeling variables without any quantitative value. Nominal scales could simply be called labels. Ordinal data. With ordinal scales, the order of the values is what's important and significant. Ordinal scales are typically measures of non-numeric concepts like satisfaction, happiness, discomfort, etc. Discrete data. These are data that can take only certain specific values rather than a range of values. For example, data on the blood group of a certain population or on their genders is termed as discrete data. A usual way to represent this is by using bar charts. Continuous data. These are data that can take values between a certain range with the highest and lowest values. The difference between the highest and lowest value is called the range of data. For example, the age of persons can take values even in decimals, or so is the case of height and weights of the students of your school. These are classified as continuous data. If you are wondering what are different types of graphs and charts, their uses and names, this lecture summarizes them with examples and pictures. Chart is an essential part of working with data, as they condense large amounts of data into easy to understand format. It is a graphical representation of data. Charts allows users to see what are the results of data and help better understand and predict current and future data. Types of chart. First up is bar graph. Bar charts represent categorical data with rectangular bars. Bar graphs are among the most popular types of graphs and charts in economics, statistics, marketing, and visualization in digital customer experience. They are commonly used to compare several categories of data. For example, the bar chart here represents the total sum of sales for product A and product B over 3 years. Next, line graph. A line chart graphically displays data that changes continuously over time. When you want to show trends, for example, how house prices have increased over time, or when you want to make predictions based on a data history over time. The following line over here in this graph shows annual sales of a particular business company for the period of 6 consecutive years. Pie chart. The pie chart breaks down a group into smaller pieces. It shows part-whole relationships to illustrate numerical proportions. To make a pie chart, you need a list of categorical variables and numerical variables. It is very useful for displaying nominal or ordinal categories of data, to show percentage or proportional data when comparing areas of growth within business, such as profit. The chart you see here represents the proportion of types of transportation used by 1,000 students to go to their school. Histograms. The histogram displays a frequency distribution of a dataset. At first glance, histograms look alike to bar graphs. However, there is a key difference between them. Bar charts represents categorical data and histogram represents continuous data. The uses for histogram are when you want to represent the shape of the data's distribution and when you want to see whether the outputs of 2 or more processes are different. The example here of histogram represents the per capita income for 5 age groups. Scatter plot chart. Scatter plots help you predict the behavior of one variable, which is the dependent variable, based on the measure of other variable, which is the independent variable. The uses of scatter plot include when trying to find out whether there's a relationship between 2 variables, to predict the behavior of dependent variables based on the measure of the independent variable. The example here presents data for 7 online stores, their monthly e-commerce sales and online advertising costs for last year. Venn chart. Venn diagram uses overlapping circles to visualize the logical relationships between 2 or more groups of items. The uses of Venn chart include when you want to compare and contrast groups of things, or you want to categorize or group the items. Here in this example of Venn diagram, it compares the features of birds and bats. Area chart. Area chart shows the change in one or several quantities over time. Its uses include when you want to show trends rather than express specific values, or to display the magnitude of a change. In the example shown here, it shows quarterly sales for product categories A and B for last year. Spline chart. It's a form of line chart that represents smooth curves through different data points. When you want to plot data that requires the usage of curve fitting, such as a product life cycle chart or an impulse response chart. In the example shown here, it shows sales of a company through several months of a year. Bubble chart. Bubble charts are super useful types of graphs for making a comparison of the relationships between data in three numeric data dimensions: the y-axis data, the x-axis data, and data depicting the bubble size. When you have to display 3 or 4 dimensions of data, this comes in handy. Or when you want to compare and display the relationships. In the example shown here, the bubble chart shows the relationship between cost at x-axis, profit at y-axis, and probability of success, which is in percentages, as the bubble size. Dot plot. Dot plot is used for relatively small sets of data, and the values falls into a number of discrete categories. Dot plots can be used to plot frequency counts when you have a small amount of categories, or they might be useful when the variable is quantitative or categorical. In the example shown here, suppose you have a class of 26 students. They're asked to tell their favorite color. The dot plot represents their choices.
Hi guys, now we're going to discuss another important aspect of the course, which is data analytics. So let's just see that what is data analytics. This diverse field of computer science is used to find meaningful patterns in data and uncover new knowledge based on applied mathematics, statistics, predictive modeling, and machine learning techniques. Companies can use the insights they gain from data analytics to inform their decisions, leading to better outcomes. Data analytics eliminates much of the guesswork from planning marketing campaigns, choosing what content to create, developing products, and more. It gives you a 360-degree view of your customers, which means you can understand them more fully, enabling you to better meet their needs. When you understand your audience better, you can market to them more effectively. Data analytics also gives you useful insights into how your campaigns are performing so that you can fine-tune them for optimal outcomes. Data analytics provide you with more insights into your customers, allowing you to tailor customer service to their needs, provide more personalization, and build stronger relationships with them. And lastly, data analytics can help you streamline your processes, save money, and boost your bottom line. When you have an improved understanding of what your audience wants, you waste less time on creating ads and content that doesn't match your audience interests. This means less money wasted as well as improved results from your campaigns and content strategies. What is data analytics? The term data analytics refers to the process of examining data sets to draw conclusions about the information they contain. Data analytic techniques enables you to take raw data and uncover patterns to extract valuable insights from it. Today, many data analytics techniques use specialized systems and software that integrate machine learning algorithms, automation, and other capabilities. What is the role of data analytics? The very first is gather hidden insights. Hidden insights from data are gathered and then analyzed with respect to business requirements. Number 2, generate reports. Reports are generated from the data and are passed on to the respective teams and individuals to deal with further actions for a high rise in business. Number 3, perform market analysis. Market analysis can be performed to understand the strengths and weaknesses of competitors. Number 4, improve business requirement. Analysis of data allows improving business business to customer requirements and experience. Data analytics is nothing new. Today, though, the growing volume of data and the advanced analytics technologies available mean you can get much deeper data insights more quickly. The insights that big data and modern technologies make possible are more accurate and more detailed in addition to using data to inform future decisions. You can also use current data to make immediate decisions. With the increasing demand for data analytics in the market, many tools have emerged with various functionalities for this purpose. There are 4 different types of analytics. Here we start with the simplest one and go further to more sophisticated types. As it happens, the more complex an analysis is, the more value it brings. Data analysis is somewhat abstract concept to understand without the help of examples. So to better illustrate, here are the 4 types of data analysis and examples of each. Descriptive analytics. This diverse field of computer science is used to find meaningful patterns in data and uncover new knowledge based on applied mathematics, statistics, predictive modeling, and machine learning techniques. Diagnostic analytics. Diagnostic data analysis aims to determine why something happened. Once your descriptive analysis shows that something negative or positive happened, diagnostic analysis can be done to figure out the reason. A business may see the leads increased in a particular month and use diagnostic analysis to determine which marketing efforts contributed the most. Predictive analytics. Predictive data analysis predicts what is likely to happen in the future. In this type of research, trends are derived from past data which are then used to form predictions about the future. For example, to predict next year's revenue, data from previous years will be analyzed. If revenue has gone up 20% every year for many years, we would predict that revenue next year will be 20% higher than this year. This is a simple example, but predictive analysis can be applied to much more complicated issues such as risk assessment, sales forecasting, or qualifying leads. Prescriptive analytics. Prescriptive data analysis combines the information found from the previous 3 types of data analysis and forms a plan of action for the organization to face the issue or decision. This is where the data-driven choices are made.
Hi everyone, welcome to the first lecture video of our course, and in this video we're going to see that how we can create an AWS account. So let's just get to it. In my browser, I'm going to type AWS Account Creation. And here I'm going to go to aws.amazon.com and I'm going to open this in a new tab. So I'm going to click on sign up now, and here we need to provide an email address, so I'm just going to provide mine. You can go ahead and give any of yours. The next step is that you choose a password. So whatever password you see fit, just type that in and confirm that by retyping the same password. And now we're going to select an AWS account name. So I'm going to write this as Amber Test and continue. Okay, so an account already exists. So I'm just going to change my email address at Gmail and then continue. Okay, so I'm just going to save this. The next thing that we have is we need to provide some contact information. So this is my personal account type. The full name is Amber Test. Phone number, I'll provide mine. You can just go ahead and enter some of your phone number, and this is important because it will give you the verification code. The next step is that you need to provide your country and region, the address, city, state and province, and postal code. So I'll give you a chance to fill out this information, and after you're done, just click on create account and continue. So once you've entered your personal information or your contact information, the next step is to add your payment information. So considering the fact that this information is highly confidential, so why just you go ahead and add yours and let me add mine. So it will ask you a credit card or debit card number, the expiration date, and the cardholder's name. And once you're done, just click on the next button. So once you're done with the payment information, it will confirm your identity. So you need to enter your country origin, and then you need to give your cell phone number, and then you need to give the security check. And it will, lastly, you need to click on the send SMS button, and it will send you a verification code. So once you're done with the entire process, the verification process and all of your billing information and your contact information, so you'll reach up to this page, which is the AWS Management Console. And over here in the Services tab, we have all of the services which Amazon provides. So it has the compute services, customer enablement, machine learning, AR and VR. Let's just scroll down. So we have the cost management, analytics, and here you can see Quicksight. So we're going to explore that, and we're going to see that how we can sign into the Quicksight application in the next video.
Hello guys, and welcome to Lab 2, and continuing from where we left off in the previous lab, we're going to create an account for Quicksight. So type in Quicksight in this tab and click on the very first option that you get. Now click on the sign up for Quicksight. We have an option to create a Quicksight account. So we have two editions. One is the standard edition and the other is the enterprise edition. So select the standard edition, and it has a 60-day trial period, after which it will charge you per month. Now let's just go ahead and click on continue. So next it asks you to fill in the information of the region, account name, notification email, whether or not you want to enable the notification by email. Over here, the last few boxes are asking if you want to enable the Quicksight to auto-discover your Amazon S3 bucket, or the S3 storage analytics data, or the IoT analytics. So we're going to keep it basic for now. So fill in the required information, and we are going to click on the finish button. Once you are done, this window will appear. So congratulations, you are signed up for Amazon Quicksight. And this is my account name and this is my username. So click this button to go on to Amazon Quicksight. So it's just setting up a few samples to help us get started. And our samples have been successfully loaded. And finally, welcome to Quicksight. So next up, we will see the dashboard overview in the next lab session. Welcome to Lab 3. This is how the outlook of Quicksight looks like, and we are going to explore it. Here are some sample analysis. So let's just look at the very first tab, which is Favorites. So there is nothing in Favorites at the moment. The second tab is Recent. It contains all of the recently viewed items. Next, we have Dashboards. There are no dashboards as of now, but we'll see how to create them in the course. And then again, Analysis. So these are the built-in analysis which are offered to us by AWS Quicksight. Let's just explore one of them. So here is the analysis. We have several tabs: Visualize, Filter, Parameters, Actions, Themes, and Settings. These are the visual types, and this sheet contains all of these visuals. So the import is complete, 100% success. These many rows, they were imported from the Spice memory, and 0 rows were skipped. Let me just close this. So this is the fields list, and we can create the visuals using this field list. So let's just see the field well for this visual. So here is the fields well, and we have date, to be precise, the year is x-axis. Then we have value, which is billed amount, and the revenue goal. So this is the trend line for the revenue and the bill amount. So we can create an extra sheet by clicking this plus icon. So here we can create more visuals. Let's just go to sheet 1.
Let me just scroll down and show you all of the visuals that are currently present. So this add option over here allows us to add a visual, title, description, calculated field, and a parameter. We have undo and redo options. We can also print and share, and we can expand the fields well. So here we can see the entire field well for this particular visual which is selected. If I change the selected visual, then the fields well will also change according to the visual. So now let's just go to datasets. These are all of the datasets which are already built in, and we can add a new dataset by this option. So that's it for now. Hi guys, and welcome to new lab session, and in this lab session we are going to see how we can import a new dataset into Quicksight for further analysis. So we have an option over here for new dataset which is in the datasets tab. So these are all of the existing datasets that are provided by Quicksight. In order to add a new dataset, we click on this option. So here we can create a dataset from the following sources. So Quicksight supports connection with Salesforce, S3 Analytics, RDS, Athena, Redshift, and MySQL. Also, we have an upload option which could be in the format of CSV, TSV, CLF, ELF, XLSX, and JSON. And here are some other options that we have. So the SPICE memory capacity for this region is of 1 GB and 14.5 MB of which has been consumed. So these existing data sources have consumed the SPICE memory. So let's just upload a file by clicking this option. I have financial sample data. I'm just going to click this and I am going to click on the open option. So this is uploading and it has been uploaded. So we have an option of sheets over here. If there would be multiple sheets, there will be multiple options from which we can select. But for now, we only have one sheet. So I'm just going to select this. And here we have option of either select or we can also edit or preview the data. So for now, I am going to click on edit or preview the data. So here is our data that you see. And now you can see that the SPICE memory, more of it has been consumed. So 1009.5 MB has been consumed of the remaining 1 GB. And this is how we import the data. Hello guys, and welcome to lab 5, and now we are going to see how we can prep the data that was previously uploaded in the previous lab session. So we have all of these fields over here. So the first thing that we can do is uncheck any of the field that we don't want to see and use in the analysis. So for instance, I don't want to see the manufacturing price, for instance. So let's just deselect this and we can select it back, and you can see that it's going to appear and it is going to disappear accordingly. So another thing that we can do is we can rename the field names. So here we have an abbreviation for cost of goods sold, COGS. So let's just rename this. I am going to click on this pencil icon and I am going to name this as cost of goods sold, and I am going to click on apply. So one other thing that we can do is change the data type. So here date is type date, it is good to go. But over here you can see that profit is type string and we cannot apply any of the numerical functions or operations to it. So let's just change its data type by clicking here, and we can select it as type integer or as type decimal. So there's an alternate way of doing this. For that, we have to go to field list, click on this icon, and we can change the data type to either a decimal. So for now, I am just going to stick with the string because we have a $sign with profit and we need to remove this $sign in order to convert it into an integer. So let's just drop the $sign off the discounts column. So it has these $signs over here. I'm going to click on this icon and click Add Calculation. So we have a function which is named as replace. So replace replaces whatever substring we give it with whatever other string that we want. So here it's going to replace the $sign with an empty string. I am going to name it as discounts new and I am going to save it. So here is our calculated field. Let's just move to the very end, and here its type is still string. Let's see all of the options for data type. So we have all of the plausible string type options, but nothing for numbers. So we can fix this by again going to edit calculations. So here we have another function which is parse decimal. Let's just double click this and enclose all of this within the brackets and click on save. So here our discounts new is now in decimal and the $sign you can see has been successfully removed. So this is how we can change the data type of a string which has a currency sign associated to it. Hi and welcome to Lab 6. Let's see how to add a calculated field. So it's similar to the way that we removed the $sign, but we have another option. So here you can see that we have Add Calculated Field button. Let's just click this. So here is how we can add a calculated field. Let's just cancel this for now. So we have the month and the year, which is derived from the date, but we don't have the day. So let's just extract this. Click on Add Calculated Field. Let's just name it as day. And the function that we have is extract. So we're going to, the D is for day and it's going to extract the day from date, and let's just save this. So here we have the day. So we can use this as well in the visualization. So we have the month, year and the day. So I've kept this video short because we'll be creating more calculated fields in this course. Hello all, in this lab we are going to see how we can save our data set. So the data set that is being used is a financial sample that we've used in our previous lab. So we can rename this as financial sample new. And the options that we have is either we can save it or we can save and visualize it. So I am just going to click on save for now. So here you can see that the financial sample new has been added to the data sets list. And when we click on this, we have certain options. So we can either delete a data set, we can edit the data set, we can create a duplicate of it, we can share it or create analysis out of it. So let's just edit this. So it lands us on the same page that we were editing in the previous labs. So I'm just going to click on save since we have done lots of editing. Let's just click this again. The other option that we have is duplicate. It will create a duplicate of this very data set. So here is how we can create a duplicate. I can rename this duplicate sample as well. So let's just rename it as group 1 and click on duplicate. I'm going to refresh the page. And here we have group 1 in our list. So when I click this, I have the same options. Let's just edit this. And now you can see that we have all of the same functions intact that we performed on the financial sample data. So we have all of the calculated fields and everything. So let's just cancel this. Click on group 1 again. And now let's just delete the dataset and click on delete. So it is disappeared from the list. Again, let's go to financial sample new. And lastly, let's explore create analysis, which allows us to create new analysis using the very dataset that has been selected. So when I click this, so here is our page on which we can analyze our data and visualize our data using the fields list that is in the dataset. Hello and welcome to lab number 8, and we are going to learn to create a table in Quicksight. So the dataset that we are going to use for this lab is the built-in dataset, and the name of this dataset is Web and Social Media Analytics. So let's just click this and let's now click on Create Analysis. So we ought to select a visual type. So the icon for the table visual is over here. So ideally we have one dimension in group by or one measure in the value, but we can have multiple in both as well. So let's just select this icon and we need to supply the group by dimensions and also the values as measures. So I am going to select events from the field list. I'm going to drag and drop it to the dimensions field well. And here you can see that all of the events have been listed out for me. So the next thing that I'm going to do is I am going to add a value. So for the value, I am going to select website visits, and either we can drag and drop or simply a single click can automatically add it. So I'm just going to click this. So by default, the measure that we have for aggregation is sum. So each event, it corresponds to the website visits, and the blank that you see over here is that there is no event which is associated with these website visits. So we can change the aggregate. We can aggregate it as sum, average, count, count distinct, as max, median, min, percentile, and many more. So let's just add another value. Let's say website page views, and let's just add one more, which is the Twitter mentions. So let me just expand my visual, and when I click this visualize icon, it just expands this. So here is our visual, the title for which is sum of website visits, sum of website web pages, and sum of Twitter mentions by events. So this is how we can create a table view or a table visual. Hello all and welcome to Lab 9. In this lab, we are going to begin from where we left off. We're going to see how to sort the table. So for this, we need to click on the Visualize tab. The next thing that I'm going to do is click on this visual, and the very first option that we have is swap. So this allows us to swap the rows and the columns. So our rows can be converted into columns and columns to rows. So here now you can see that events is changed into columns. So we have the website visits, we have the website page views and the Twitter mentions, and all of the values have been changed into rows. So we can also expand this, and let's just expand the visual as well. Now let's just go to settings. So we have multiple settings for headers, for cells, and for title as well. So let's just explore them one by one. So we can enable and disable the header by clicking this checkbox. Next thing we have is the font size, which we can convert to either medium, large, or extra large, but let's just keep it medium for now. And also we have the horizontal alignment, which we can change to center, to right, left, or auto. So let me just swap this, and now if I select center and right, so only event is taking the effect but not the others, since other don't have enough space. So let's just expand this and try this again. Yeah, now center. So it's changed. So similarly, we have the vertical alignment as well, where we can change it to top, middle, or to bottom. Now for the cells. So for the cells also, we have the font size and we have the horizontal alignment. In the font size, we can change it to small or we can change it to large. And the horizontal alignment, we can go to center or whatever is suitable. So the next option that we have is that we can show the column or hide the column by clicking this option, hide column. And if we want to show it, we need to go to fields well, select that particular column and then go to show column. So it will show it again. So also we can move the columns either by swapping like this, or we can select the column that we want to move and we can select the right or the left arrows in order to move it to right or move it to left. And lastly, we can play around with the title as well. So we can either show title or we can disable the title. We can change the font size as well, and we can rename it by double clicking and typing a whole new title. So let's just type in events versus the website visits versus website page views and the Twitter mentions. So that is how we can sort the table and how we can play around with the settings.
Hello everyone. So one quick thing that we're going to see in the table visual is how can we apply conditional format. So for that, we click on these three dots that you see and we go to conditional formatting option. So it's asking me for the column that I want to apply the conditional formatting on, and I want to apply it to Twitter mentions. So now it's giving me the option of whether I want to add a background color, a text color, or an icon. So I'm going to go with the background color, and here I'm going to choose greater than. So you can have multiple conditions, that is, you can have equals, does not equal, greater than, and all of these, or even between. But I'm going to go with greater than. The value, for instance, 50. And when the value is greater than 50, I want the color to be changed to green. Let's just apply. So now you can see that the conditional formatting has been applied on this column, and this is how you do it. The next thing, and a very important thing, is how we can show the totals in a table. So for that, then again, you have to click on these three dots and select show totals. So these are the totals for Twitter mentions, these are for website visits, and these for website page views. But you can see that we don't have any header attached to this. So for that, let's just go back, close this, and go to the format visual settings. And here in total tab, you can see that we have an option of show total, open total. How do you want to position them? You want to position them top, or you want to position them to the bottom? Do you want a label to appear with them? So if I write here total and click here, so this label is appearing. And if I erase this, so there is no label with it. So that's how you play around with a table. Hello everyone and welcome to lab number 11, and in this lab we are going to see how can we create a pivot table. Previously we saw how can we create a table, and now we have a slight variation of that, and here is the icon for the pivot table. But before we begin with the pivot table, I would like to add another data set to my existing sheet. So let's just see how we can do that. For that, you need to click on this pencil icon, which is next to data set, and click on add data set. I'm going to use the sales pipeline data set. Just select this and click on select. So when you click this icon to drop this menu down, you can see that we have two data sets. One is the sales pipeline and one the web and social media analytics that we were previously using. Okay, so right now we have selected the sales pipeline, and we want to create a pivot table using the data set that we have here. These are the fields list items. So I'm just going to click on some random item. Let's say we want to see the salesperson. So you can see that automatically a visual has been created. But since we want a pivot table to be created, I'm going to click on this icon. So here we have the count of the records by salesperson. So by default, in the pivot table, if we only select the number of rows and nothing is provided in the columns or the values, so it selects the count of that particular field by default.
Now, let's say that we want to add a column to it, which is the opportunity stage. So here we have the opportunity stage. I'm just going to expand this. So here we have the salesperson, and then we have the opportunity stage, and we have the count accordingly. So a way to read this would be that Ann Smith has 59 qualified records and Ann Smith has 298 prospect records. So what about these values that you see here? So we need to add a measure in order for this to work. So for instance, we add the forecasted monthly revenue. So we are going to see this by salesperson and by the stages. So now what we can derive from this pivot table is that Ann Smith has this much forecasted monthly revenue in terms of sum, and this is per the qualified stage. And so we can say that Jennifer has about this much forecasted monthly revenue, which is in the closed won stage. So that is how we create a pivot table, and that is how we can see the data in terms of 2 dimensions. Now, what if we want to add more rows? So for that, let's say we have this segment field and I want to add it to the rows. So a simple drag and drop would do. All right. So now you can see that we have the salesperson and we have the segments for this salesperson, which is SMB, startup, and enterprise. And then according to that, our forecasted monthly revenue has been divided, and it's further divided according to the opportunity stages. So in the pivot table, we can have multiple dimensions across which we can view our data. In the next video, we're going to see that how we can change the aggregated formulas, so stay tuned. Hi guys, in this video we're going to see the various aggregation methods that are provided to us by AWS Quicksight in case of a pivot table. So here in the values, we can see this across column wise, but we can also convert it to rows by clicking this option. It doesn't change the result, but does change the layout. So back to column. Alright, so when you click on this option here, you see the very first option that we have is aggregate, and by default it's selected to be the sum. But we can change it to average, count, count distinct, max, median, min, percentile, standard deviation population, variance, and variance population. The other thing that we have is either we can show it as a number or a currency or percent. So let's just change it to currency. So here you can see that all of this is now represented as currency. Also, we can change the format to either dollar, pound, euro, yen, so on and so forth. And we do have more formatting options available as well. So the next thing is add table calculation, and we have an option of having the running totals difference, percentage difference. So by selecting any one of this, we can change the view of the table entirely. So what if we want to select the percent of total? So now you can see that this has been changed to the percent of total. Instead of sum, we do see the percent of the total for the sum. And if we want to change the aggregate to average, this will change the values. But sum is actually better. It makes more sense. So these are the options that are provided to us with a pivot table. Also, we can apply conditional formatting, and we can also remove the values field. So if I remove it, you know that by default count is there to save us. But adding a measure has its own perks. So let me just add it back. So that's it for the pivot tables, and in the next video, I will show how we can create KPIs. Hello everyone, in this video we are going to see how can we create KPIs. So we use a key performance indicator, which is also known as a KPI, to visualize a comparison between a key value and its target value. So a KPI displays a value comparison, the two values being compared, and a progress bar. So let's just see how it's done. The data that we're going to use is the sales pipeline data. And I am going to create a new visual, and we can do that by clicking on this add icon and select add visual. By default, it's an autograph, but we want a KPI, so This is the icon that we use for this. I'm just going to select it. And now it's asking me for a value, for a target value, and for a trend group. So the value that I have in mind is the weighted revenue. So by default, it's taking its sum. And the target value is the forecasted monthly revenue. Okay. So here we go. So in this example, the following KPI shows how closely the revenue is meeting its forecast. So it's 19.84%. So that's the weighted revenue, which is meeting its forecasted monthly revenue. So we can also change the aggregations by going to the settings. You can show the progress bar, you can show the primary value only, or if you unselect this, all of the values are displayed. So the comparison method could be difference, it could be percent, it could be difference as percent, or we can always select the auto option. So the comparison format could be in terms of these formats. And the primary value displayed could be a comparison or it could be actual, but comparison is better because it gives us a better understanding. So that is how we play around with KPIs and how they give us more insights into our data. So it tells us that whether our values are reaching the target values or not, how much are they lagging behind, and what's our success rate. So thank you for watching this video. Hello everyone and welcome to a new lab session, and in this lab session we're going to see how can we add a filter to a visual. So for that we're going to first create a visual. I'm going to go to visualize and select salesperson. So I'm going to create a pivot table out of it. So we need a salesperson. Let's say we also add a region, and lastly active items. Let me just rearrange all of this so that it makes more sense. So salesperson as columns. So let's just expand this visual. I'm going to click on this visualize tab again just to get a bigger and better picture. So here is our visual, which is count of records by region, active item, and salesperson. Now we're going to apply a filter to it. In order to do that, we need to click on the filter icon. And we are going to create a new filter, and then we're going to select the column on which we want the filter to be applied to. For instance, we are going to apply a filter on the region column. And now I'm going to click on these three dots and click edit. So here we have an option of include. If I drop it down, we can exclude and we can include. So let's say that I want to include US but not other regions. Or for instance, I want to include US and APAC, but not EMEA. Now, when I will click on apply, so this filter has been successfully applied. These are the regions that we have, and the count of active item per salesperson is visible to us. So if we change the include to exclude and then apply, so you can see on the contrary, now we have EMEA but not US and APAC. So that's how you apply filters to a visual. Thank you for watching the video. Hi guys, in this video we're going to explore different types of filters, and we have the same visual intact as in the previous lab. So we're going to go to the filter icon, create a new filter, that too on region. And now let's just edit this filter by clicking these three dots and clicking on edit. So here we have the filter type. So we explored the very first type in the previous lab as well, which is the filter list. When this option is selected, we have a list of the items from which we can select or deselect the value. The next type is a custom filter list. So unlike a filter list, we don't have a filter list to select from. However, we need to type the items, and one item is per value. So let's say I only want to include APAC and I want to include US, and then I'll click on apply. So this is how the custom filter list works. So instead of just selecting, we need to type the items. The next is custom filter. So here, instead of include and exclude, we have multiple options, which is equals, does not equal, starts with, ends with, contains, and does not contain. So let's just see what ends with actually does. So let's say I want to have all of the regions which end with an S and then apply. So our change is visible and the only region that ends with an S is US. So we have the fields for that particular region. And lastly, we have a top and bottom filter. So in a top and bottom filter, we have the option of whether we want to show the rows from the top or we want to show them from the bottom. And then we have to actually tell how many rows do we actually want to show. Also, we can say that by which field you want to apply this. So let's say I want to apply this by active item instead of the region. And here I say that I want to show the top 2 and then apply. So we have the top 2 according to the active item. And if I go to bottom and then apply, so our visual actually changes according to this filter. So we can close this filter. Another thing that we can do is actually select this and disable this. It will have no effect on the visual whatsoever. And lastly is that we can also select and delete it. Thank you for watching this video. Stay tuned because we'll see how can we apply text filters next.
Hello guys and welcome to lab number 16, and in this lab we are going to explore the text filters. So text filters are basically applied on any textual field that we have. So here we have region, active item and salesperson, which are the textual fields. So we're going to see that how can we apply filters onto it. So we'll go to the filter icon and we're going to create a new filter. Let's say that this filter is going to be on salesperson. The next step is that we're going to edit this filter. So we explored all of the filter types in the previous lab. So let's just see how one of this type is used to be applied to a text filter. So let's say I am going to go to custom filter, and here I am going to use does not contain, and the parameter that I'm going to provide is that it should not contain ER, and let's just apply. So now you can see that all of the salesperson which do not contain ER in them have been displayed. Let's just try another type of filter, which is the custom filter list, and I am going to include Anne Smith and Victor Burke, and so I'm excluding these and apply. So you can see that this filter has been applied, but the previous filter that we had, which was the names with ER were to be excluded, that is now not applicable. So for that, if you want multiple filters to be applicable, we will have to add a new filter to this particular visual. So I'm just going to close this filter and we're going to create a new filter from here, which is do on the salesperson, because we want both of the conditions to be satisfied. And from here I am going to edit this, and in my custom filter I'm going to say that it should not contain ER. And now let's apply. I'm closing this. So you can see that both of these filters are applied to this particular visual, is that it's excluding Anne Smith and Victor Burke, and also it's only displaying the names of those salesperson which do not contain ER. So thank you for watching this video. So this is how you can apply multiple filters to a visual and how we can use text filters in our visuals.
Hello and welcome to lab session number 17 of our course, and in this lab session we are going to see how we can deal with the date field and how can we create date filters. So they're slightly different from the text filter, but in order to manipulate this, we need to create a visual which contains the date field. So I am just going to double click this date field. This is in the sales pipeline dataset, and we are just going to drag and drop. So we have a dimension which is added, but let's just click on the pivot table because that way we will have a more clear picture of the filter. So now you can see that it has a date column and it has a count for each date. So it doesn't make much sense as of now, but I would like to know the weighted revenue.
So we have weighted revenue in the values field and we have date as the rows. So I'm not going to go into the columns complexity as of now. So you can see that we have multiple dates for January, and for each date we have a weighted revenue. But what if we want to see this revenue according to a year or according to a month? So for that, we will just click on this icon over here. It will drop down the menu and all of the options that we have for the date column. So the aggregate is either by year, by quarter, month, week, day, or minute. So since we want it perhaps monthly, I'll click on that. Now you can see that our visual has immensely changed. So we have the date column and we have the weighted revenue column. But now instead of a date by date weighted revenue for the month of Jan, we have a collective revenue for the month of January 2011. Now what if we want to see it on yearly basis? So then we change the aggregate to year. So here we go. Now we have all of the years cumulated weighted revenue. But since we are going to apply filters, so I am going back to month. And so you can sort it as well, ascending or descending, and you can change the format of the date as well. So let's just apply the filter. We go on to the filter icon. We click on create one and we want to create this on the date. So let's just edit it and see the options that it provides us. So now you can see that the filter type we have has variated. So we have a time range, we have relative dates and top and bottom filter. So let's just explore the time range first. So in time range, we have an option of between, after, before, or equals. So in between, we can give a range. We have a start date and we have an end date. So for instance, I say that I want to see all of the data from 1st July 2015, and I don't want to include the time, and I want to see it till December 2020. So it has the option of whether you want to include the start date or you want to include the end date, and if we don't select these checkboxes, it will exclude them. And whether you want to exclude the nulls or include the nulls, or you only want to have the nulls. So let's just see for 2015. So here we have July 2015 and it's going up to 2016. Now let's just apply this filter. So our visual has now been changed and now we can see the data from July the 15th to December 2016 because apparently it has the values up till that point. So that is how you work with the between feature. Similarly, we can work with after and before and equals. So this was the time range. What if we have relative dates? So in the relative dates filter type, we have the date and time series which are relative to the current date by default, but we can also include a date and time from the parameter. So since our current date and time is way ahead of the date and time which is available in this visual, so we are going to go ahead and create a parameter first. So I'm going to click on this icon and select create one, name this parameter as date, then select its type, which is date and time, and give it a static value. We can set it dynamically as well, but for now I'm just going to give it a static value. Click on this and a date picker arrives. So let's say I want this, to be in 2013 and the month is October, and I'm creating this and then I'm connecting it to the filter, and here we're going to select this instead of the current date and select our parameter. So it's giving us the option whether you want the unit of measure to be in years or you want it to be in quarters, months, weeks, days, hours or minutes. So let's say we want it to be years and we want to see the previous year. So you can see previous year, you can see this year, year to date, last n years of what to the particular anchor point, or next n years to whatever anchor point you have set as the parameter. So I'm just going to click on apply. So the previous year to 2013 is 2012 and we can see the data for that year only. Now what if we change this to this year and now apply? So now we can see 2013. So you can also change it to next n years, and over here we can give the number of years to be 2 and let's apply. So here we can see 2014, which is next to 2013,
and 2015's data. So that is how we can work our way around relative dates. And the last type that we have is top and bottom filter, and it works similar to the way that we saw how this works for text filters. So I'm just going to give an overview. So for instance, I want to see the top and I want to see about 10 and let's say months. Now when I apply, I need to give this by field as well. So this is by date and apply. So it's giving me the top 10 months and this is by date count. You can change the aggregate to max. So this is for the maximum dates. And you can also change this to probably weighted revenue and change this to, let's say, max. And now let's apply. So here we can see the maximum weighted revenue for the top 10 dates. So thank you for watching this video. In the next video, we are going to discuss the numeric filters. Welcome to lab number 18, guys. And in this lab, we're going to see how we can work around with numeric filters. So I've just created a new sheet and I'm going to create a new visual as well. So the visual is going to be a pivot table. We are going to have segment as the rows, salesperson in the column, and we are going to have the forecasted monthly revenue as the value. The aggregate is sum. So let's just expand this. This is our visual, and we're going to apply the filter onto it by clicking this icon. I'm going to create a new filter by clicking on create one. So numeric filters are to be applied to numeric fields, and the numeric field that we have over here is forecasted monthly revenue, is latest, and weighted revenue. So since we have forecasted monthly revenue in the visual, so it's better to have a filter on this. Now let's just edit. So here we have different options when we are dealing with the numeric fields. So we have a no aggregation option. We have an option for sum, average, count, count distinct, max, median, min, percentile, standard deviation population, variance, and variance population. So for instance, we have selected the sum as the aggregate, and the next options of conditions that we have is equals, does not equal, greater than, less than, greater than or equal to, less than or equal to, or between. So for instance, we want it to be between. So we ought to select a minimum value and a maximum value. So some random values that I'm selecting are these, okay, and apply. So here you can see that our visual has changed and it's showing me the result for those segments and those salesperson who have a forecasted monthly revenue sum in between these two maximum and minimum values. So only these are visible, the rest aren't. Similarly, we can work with average and count distinct, and so on and so forth. So thank you for watching the video. This is all about filters, and in the next lab session, we're going to learn about controls. Hi, and welcome to lab session number 19. This lab session is regarding how we can add controls to parameters. And in this lab, we're going to use the parameter that we created in order to explain the date filter. So we have the date parameter over here. Click on this drop down option and click on add control. Now you need to name your control. Let's say we want to name it as date, or let's say we say select date. So we have a style, and the only style that we have is a date picker. So we just add this. So the addition that you can see in this visual is that we have a control and we have an option of selecting the date. Now previously we entered the date in the parameter field. Let me edit this parameter. So here we added a static default value, and every time if we wanted it to change, we had to set this value. But now with the help of control, we don't need to go into the parameter setting. Rather, we can change this in the control option. So here, instead of October, if I give it October 2014, let's say 1st, so it has changed. And now you can see that the filter that we applied, let me just take you to the preview. So here we have the previous year date filter. So you can see that because of the control, instead of 2012, we do see 2013 as the previous year. So that is how we add controls which are with respect to date. In the next video, we're going to see how we can add numeric controls. Hi and welcome to lab number 20, and in this lab we're going to see that how can we apply numeric filters. So we have a visual over here that we also used for applying the numeric filter. So I'm going to apply a new filter to it. Let's say create one, and that will be on obviously forecasted monthly revenue. And let's just edit the filter. So for instance, the sum not equals, but let's say greater than. And now instead of a value, let's just use a parameter, because we're going to add a control to the parameter and no parameter is added yet. So we're going to create a parameter. So let's just go to parameters first and add a parameter, and let's just name this parameter as the sum, and this is going to be a number. It's going to take a single value, and let's just enter a default static value and click create. So we're going to use it with a combination of the filter. I'm just clicking here. Now we have the filter, and here instead of equals, I'm going to do greater than, and clicking on the option, I'm just going to click on yes. So it is showing me the sum for all of the values which are greater than the value, the static value that I entered in the parameter. Because we're using the parameter, I'm just going to select this and then I'm going to apply. So you can see that it hasn't filtered anything. So we can change the value of that static parameter by going to the parameters option and then edit parameter and then change the value and update this. So you can see that the values have been filtered out. But instead of going again and again to the parameters and changing the default value, I can do is add a control. Name this control as select the number. Make it a text field. You can make it drop down, list, slider. So let's just go with the slider. So we have to add a minimum value and a maximum value on which the slider will operate. So this is my minimum value. These are some random values, and this is my maximum value. I'm including a step size over here and adding this. So here we have a select number control in our visual, which was previously not present. Now if we want to filter this, we will just click this. And right now we stand here, but you can increase the number and the visual will change and filter the values accordingly. We can also decrease this. So this is the amount of flexibility that AWS Quicksight provides us with. So in the next video, we're going to see that how we can work around with the text controls. So welcome to lab number 21, which is the last lab for this section. And in this lab, we're going to see that how we can add control to a text field, to basically a text parameter. So we have this visual over here where we have the events on one side and we have the Twitter mentions on the other, and these Twitter mentions are according to the events. So I'm going to add a filter by clicking this filter option and clicking this add filter option. The filter is going to be on events and we're going to edit this. So we only want this filter for this particular view, and instead of filter list, let's just do a custom filter. Here instead of equals, let's select contains and use a parameter. So it doesn't have a parameter right now, which is of type text. So we are going to add a parameter from here and name it as the sub string. You can name it whatever you feel like. So it's going to be a string type and a single value, and the value that I'm going to enter is new, and I'm going to create this. So we're going to combine it with the filter. So here instead of equals, we're in the filters, we're going to do contains, use the parameter no, and select the substring basically, and then we're going to apply. So it has filtered all of the events which contain the substring which is new. So if we want the substring to change, we'll have to go to the parameters again and then edit the settings of the parameters. But let's just add a control to it, and here name this as select substring or type substring. So we have an option of drop down, list and text field. So if we select drop down, then we have to enter the specific values that you want your drop down list to have. So we can have new. Another item that we can have in our drop down is promo or for instance mobile. So let's just keep this up to these many values up till now and click on add. So here we have an option of select substring. So we can select all, new, mobile or promo, If I select promo, so we only have these two events which contain promo in them. And if I select mobile, so we have only one event which contains mobile. And if I click on all, then we have all of the events over here. So that is how we deal with controls using the text parameters. Welcome to section 9 of our course, and in this section we're going to see that how can we create the graph visualizations, and earlier we saw the theoretical part of this, but now we're going to practically demonstrate all of the visuals that we discussed earlier. So the very first graph that we have is a pie graph. The data that I'm going to use is sales pipeline data to demonstrate this, and the category that we're going to use in our pie chart, let's just select the pie chart from here and go to visualize. Here I'm going to select the region. So by default we have the count of the records, which represents the percentages, and when I hover over one particular region it gives me the count, but by default it doesn't provide me with any count or any such metric information. So if you want to change that, we can go to settings, and here we can go to data labels. From there we can go show metric. And here in metric label and style, we have an option that whether you want the value and percent to be displayed, which in this case, you can see the value and the percentage, or you only want the percentage, or you only want the values. And also whether you want the position of these values to be outside or inside. So that is how we can play around with this. But this is by count of the records by region. Let's just select this. We can change the value as well, so we can add a measure to it. So if I go to visualize, I have the field list. So if I want the measure to be forecasted monthly revenue, I'll just click on the fields well, and from here drag and drop into the value. So here our values have changed according to the forecasted monthly revenue according to that particular region. So the aggregate, that by default is the sum, and we can change the aggregation as well to count distinct, or for instance max. So this will change the view of our pie chart. Hello and welcome to lab number 23 of our course, and in this lab we're going to see that how can we create a bar and a column chart. So let's just use a different data set. For that I'm going to click on this pencil icon in order to add a new data set. Click on add data set button and select business review, which is one of the built-in data set, and click select. So we have our new data set for visualization. Let's just select segments. So we have the segments and we have the count of the records by segment. And now let's just select the horizontal bar chart. And then we have revenue goal, which is going to be selected as a value. So instead of count of the records, we have the sum of revenue now as the value measure. And the by default aggregation for this is the sum, and this is according to the segments. So we can change its view to a vertical bar chart as well by clicking this icon, and we can add the color dimension as well in order to just give in more insights and details into our chart. So let's just do that. Add a channel. So here you can see that now we have channel, which is in the legends. We have a web channel, mobile, and API. So from this chart, we can deduce that the web channel has been found to be most effective in order to retrieve the highest revenue goal by the segment of startup. By looking at this graph, we can easily say that web proves out to be most effective in all of the segments. So this is it for the bar chart and the column chart. In the next video, we're going to see how we can use a line chart. Hi and welcome to lab number 24, and in this lab we're going to see that how can we add a line graph. So keeping intact the previous visual that we have, we're just going to add another visual by clicking this add option and clicking on add visual button. So it's autograph by default, but we want it to be a line chart. In the fields well, we have the option of x-axis, value, and color, and since the line graph shows the trends over time, so we're going to select a date as an x-axis, and next we're going to select a value. Let's say we want to select revenue goals, and also we want to select the cost. Let's just expand this for a better view. So here we have the trend line, and we can click on this date option and change the aggregate to month, quarter, year, because day is giving a lot of information and the information is cluttered. So let's just go to year. So here we can see that in 2002, 2012 and in 2013, our revenue goal and cost is almost similar. But in the years to come, that is 2014, 15, and 16, we have a higher revenue goal than the cost. So we do have some margin of profit over here. So this is our cost and this is our revenue goal, and this is per the year. We can also see it as per the quarter. So now this is on the basis of quarters. So this is how we can see the trends with respect to a line graph. The aggregate for now is sum for both the revenue and the cost, and we can change the aggregation to average as well for both. So now this is based on the average aggregation. Let's just go back to here. And now you can see in terms of average, then again our cost is a bit on the lower side than the revenue goal. So this is it for the line graph. Welcome to lab number 25, and in this lab we're going to see that how we can work around the area chart. So I'm going to click on add and add visual. I'm going to select area line chart. So it's selected. So on the x-axis we want date in order to show trends, since it's a combination of the line chart and the area chart. And the value that I want to add is the build amount, and the color is from the channels. So let's just expand this and change the aggregate to here. So now you can see that the area is shaded for all of the channels. So we have a shaded area in blue for API, in little bit darker blue for mobile, and peachish orange for web. So this shows that the highest build amount in terms of sum has been for web, and that has increased over the years and has remained highest amongst all of the three channels. Second is for mobile, and lastly we have the build amount for API. So this is according to the year. We can change it with respect to quarter as well. Still stays the same. Let's just see what the trend is for the month. So it's almost giving the same information, as that web has the most build amount by date. So this is the information that we can gather from an area and a line chart combination. Hello everyone, and welcome to lab number 26, and in this lab we're going to see that how we can work around with a stacked bar or a column chart. So I'm just going to add a new visual. This is autograph for now. We're going to select this icon for a horizontal stacked bar chart and this one for a vertical stacked bar chart. So let's just select the vertical stacked bar chart. Now we have the fields well, we have x-axis, value, and the group or color. In the x-axis, I'm going to add the customer region and expand this. In the value or the y-axis, I'm going to add the revenue goal. So for now, we can see the revenue goal and the sum for the revenue goal per the customer region. But let's just add the service line to it and see the change. So now we have the revenue goal sum, but this is now divided amongst the service lines. So the billing department has this much amount of revenue goal, which is per the region US, and this much is for EMEA, and this is for APAC, and so is for marketing, and then also we have for HR. So we can also change the aggregation to, let's say, average. So now you can see that on average, our bars have changed slightly. So on average, HR has this much amount of revenue goal per the region APAC, and this is for marketing and this is for billing. Let's just go to the setting of this chart. So here we do have an option of showing the data labels or disabling them, and we can also add a reference line. So a reference line could be calculated or it could be constant. In a calculated line, you need to select a column. So if I select cost and average, so this is my reference line average for the cost. So this is how you can also add an average line to your chart. Hello and welcome to lab number 27, and in this lab we're going to see that how we can work around with a combo chart. So I'm going to add a visual. So combo chart is basically a combination of two or more charts. For instance, we saw a combination of line and area chart, and now we're going to see a combination of the stacked bar chart along with the line chart. So in the field well, you can see we have an x-axis, we have the bars, graph, and also an additional field of lines. So let's just add the x-axis. Let's just say that we're adding segments to be x-axis, and on the bars we are adding the revenue goal, and in the color I'm going to add the channel. So here we have the channels and we have the revenue goal. The sum we can change it to average, and we have the segments. So we don't have anything added into lines, but we can add lines to show the trend for build amount, and we can also see this for multiple fields. So if I want to add cost to it, I can go ahead and add another line. So we have a line of build amount, which is green, and one for the cost, which is purple. So by default it's sum. We can change the aggregate to max. For the cost, let's change it to max as well. So here, if I am going to expand this to get a better view, and if I hover over this area, you can see the web, mobile, and API values for average revenue goal. And you can also see the maximum build amount and the cost for the startup. And if I go towards SMB, the same information will be visible for SMB. And lastly, if I go to enterprise, you can see the information for enterprise. So now we have some additional information using this combinational chart. So if you want more information to be displayed for your charts, you can always move towards combinational charts. Thank you.
Hi guys, in this lab we're going to see that how can we create a tree map. But let me just tell you what a tree map actually is. So to visualize one or two measures for a dimension, we use tree maps. Each rectangle on the tree map represents one item in the dimension. The rectangle size represents the proportion of the value for the selected measure that the item represents compared to the whole for the dimension. So let's get started. So the data I have is of business review, and I am going to add a new visual, and I'm going to select tree map as the visual. So in the field well, we have the group by dimension according to which the rectangles will be drawn. We have the size, which will determine the size of the rectangles. And if we don't give the size measure by default, it will be the count. And lastly, we can also add a measure which will change the color of the rectangles. So the brightest color will be the high intensity of that particular number that we'll set as the color. And if the color is light, that means that that value for that particular rectangle is low in case of this measure that we'll add in the color. The dimension that we're going to use in the group by is the segment. So here we have 3 segments, and we're going to give this the size by the revenue goal. So by default, it's the sum. And lastly, in the color, we can add cost. Let me just expand this. So here you can see that the revenue goal is highest for startup, then for enterprise, and lastly for SMB, and so is the cost, because the lightest color is of cost is for SMB, and that color slightly varies in intensity for enterprise, and then for startup we have the darkest color. So that is how we can make a tree map. Let's just make another visual. So let me collapse this. So let's just change the data set now. The data set that I'm going to use is for web and social media, and we are going to create a visual, and we are going to create a visual for events, and this is going to be a tree map. So all of the rectangles, they represent the event. So here we have the empty event as well, which means that there is no event assigned to 655 records. So your task is to just go ahead and to filter and change this and filter the empty ones out. Since we have dealt with the filter, so I hope that you'll be able to finish this task. The next thing is the size. So let's just add the website visits to size, and to color, I'm going to add Twitter mentions. Expanding this to see the entire view. So here is our graph. We have the empty box, which has this much amount of the website visits. And then we have the CPC campaign, then target outreach campaign, and then new website promo, and so on and so forth. And the intensity varies according to the Twitter mentions. So this was all about tree maps. In the next video, we're going to see how we can deal with geographical plots.
Hi guys, in the last lab of the visualization and graphs, we're going to see that how can we create a geographical plot. So we're going to import new data. I'm going to click on this icon because this data set is not built in. I'm going to click on this dataset option and I'm going to click on the new dataset button and upload a file. So I have the sales data which I'm going to select and open. The file has been uploaded. I'm going to select this and edit and preview. So here we have this branch data and this is the sales data for a pizza chain. And here I am going to change my branch data type from string to state. So we have the pizza type, we have quantity, the time is also in string and the time range. So I'm not going to change any of these and I don't want the serial number. So I'm going to disable that and I am going to save this. Now let's just go back to analysis and we have our last web and social media analysis that we worked on and I am going to add a new sheet. Currently it's autograph. So let's just add the data set and add data set here, select the sales data and select. So we have sales data available for visualization. I'm going to select this to actually just going to remove this visualization. Now I'm going to change my data set and now let's just click on the branch data and change this to the points on map. So in a geographical plot, we have the geospatial column in which we enter the location, the longitude or the latitude, and we have the size. Let me just close this, which is the measure for these bubbles. And we can also add color and give more meaning to the visual. So the size is right now it's based on the count. So you can see that there's not a lot of difference. So the size hence is not very prominently varying. So I'm going to add a calculated field now because we have price and we have quantity. So we're just going to multiply the price and quantity in order to get the sales. And this sales is going to be per pizza type. So I'm going to click on add and then add a calculated field. So we're going to name this field as sales and the formula that we have is quantity times the price. Now I am going to save this. So here you can see that in the fields list another field has been added and the name of this field is sales. Now let's just drag and drop it in the size field, the size tab. Okay, so here, so the sum of the sales over here is 39,340 and here 37,332 and here it's about 35,884. So according to that you can see that the dots have changed. So we can also add the color dimension per the pizza type. Here is our legend. So according to the legend, when we hover over the dot, we can see all of the data according to that particular geospatial location. So in Idaho, we have barbecue fillet steak, margarita, hot pepperoni feast, and barbecue chicken according to these sales sum. So this is how we create a geographical plot. Welcome to the last section of this course. In this section, we are going to discuss what a dashboard is. We are going to see how we can create a dashboard, how we can publish it, and how can we share it with our peers. So a dashboard basically is a tool which is used for information management and business intelligence. It's much like a dashboard of a car. Data dashboards organize, store, and display important information from multiple data sources into one easy-to-access place. We are at our home page of Quicksight and from here we are going to go to the dashboards tab. So here we don't have any dashboard currently. Let's just go to analysis and this is the last analysis we worked on. We can rename this from here. So let's just rename it as my analysis. It will auto save automatically. So we have an option of share. We can publish a dashboard and we can share analysis. For now I'm going to publish this dashboard. I'm going to publish all of these visuals under the name My Dashboard and publish the dashboard. So here we have an option of sharing the dashboard. We can type in the username or email of our peers. So we can also manage the dashboard accesses. And so this is our dashboard. It contains all of the sheets that we worked on and contains all of the visuals that were in the sheet. So we have an option over here of data from where we can see all of the data sets that have been used in this dashboard. We can also save it under a new analysis name and we can share our dashboard. We can email the report. Lastly, we can print it in a form of landscape or portrait orientation. We can also change the paper size accordingly. So that's it for our course. Thank you for watching. Hi everyone and welcome to the capstone project of our course. And in this section, we're going to use a dataset and make an analysis out of it. At last, we're going to publish this analysis as a dashboard. So without further ado, let's get to it. Very firstly, I am going to go to datasets. The datasets that we have already imported includes financial sales sample, sales data, and some built-in datasets. The dataset that I'm going to use is financial sample new. Let me just click onto it and edit the dataset. So this is our dataset. We have the segment, country, product, discount band, units sold, manufacturing price, gross sales, discounts, sales, cost of goods sold, profit, date, month, name, number, and the year. So what are we going to do with this data is, first of all, we're going to prep it. So we have the segments as string, the countries also as string, product is also as string, and then we have the discount band. Units sold is saved as decimal, but sales we have as a string. Now you can see that all of the numbers from here onwards, since they contain the currency sign, they're taken to be as strings rather than as number or as decimal. So the first thing that we're going to do is change these to decimal. So for that, I am going to add a calculated field. Name this calculated field as sales new. And here I am going to replace in the sales field the $sign with an empty string, close the parenthesis, and I am going to parse this as a decimal. So all of the functions are key sensitive. Everything looks good. Let me just remove these braces and save it. A bracket is missing. Now let me just save this and write. We're done. So here we have our calculated field, which is sales new, and you can see that sales new is decimal. This is the sales field, which is saved as a string, and this is the sales new field, which is now saved as a decimal. So let's just do it one more time for the sales price. I'm going to add a calculated field, name it as sale price new. We are going to parse decimal. We are going to replace the sale price currency sign with an empty string and save. So we have our new calculated field added. And let's just do it with the cost of goods sold as well. So I'm going to add another calculated field. Taking the abbreviation, cost of goods sold, new, and same, we're going to parse and replace cost of goods sold, $sign with an empty string, and save. So I think this is enough for us to deal with. We can select the manufacturing price if we want that. We can deselect any column if we don't want that. So I am just going to save and visualize. So this is the page that is opened in front of us in which we're going to perform the analysis. Let's just name the analysis as financial report. The first thing that we're going to do before adding a visual is that we're going to add a title to this analysis. And let's say our title is Financial Report. So this is our autograph. I've just selected this and I want to see
country versus the total sales. So here we have the count of records by country, and I want to see it versus the total sales, which is going to be from sales new. So I've selected that. That is our field wells. So on our x-axis we have the country, on our y-axis we have the value of sales, which is the total sales, and this is aggregated as the sum. We can change that to average or to count or count distinct. So let's say we want to see the average. So let's just rename this average sales per country. Looks good. So we're going to add another visual. In this visual, let's just see the segments, and let's just see them by the units sold, and I want to see the units sold with respect to the average. Now let's just convert this into a pie chart. So we have the average of units sold, and if we want the averages to be visible, we're going to go to the settings of this visual, and in the data labels we are going to select show metric, and here we only want the percent, and how about we want it inside? Looks good. So now let's just go ahead and add another visual. In this visual we're going to see the discount band and the cost of goods sold, and we are going to keep it as account, and let's just change this to a donut chart. So in total we have 700 products which are sold, and this is the count for all of them and the percentages accordingly. Let me just change the title. Discount band versus cost of goods sold. All right. So lastly, let's just add another visual. And here, let's just keep it as a vertical bar chart. Now here, we are going to add the product, which is our x-axis. And next, we are going to see the total sales for each product. So sales is the value, and the aggregation over here is sum. So we have the total sales by product, and lastly let's just add a visual which is going to be a line chart, and here we are going to see the trend with respect to the date. So for now it's count of records by default, but the value that we want to see is the total sales over a trend line, and let's just say we want to see the average total sales over the trend line, and we are to change the date aggregation to year. So we have 2 years. Let's just say we are going to change it to month. So over the months, we have this trend line right here. Let's just expand this. So for now, we only have one single trend line, which is the total sales trend line that we have. And let's just rename this. And let's just rename this to average sales. So this is our trend line for the average sales. But how about we want to see the average sales for the segments as well? So we can drag and drop the segment into color. So now we have multiple trend lines, and these trend lines are according to the segments. You can see the legend over here. And this is for the average sales. Let's just rename this average sales per segment. So here we have average sales and we have all other visuals, and it gives us a good insight into the financial report. We have the average sales per country, and we have the average of units sold by each segment. Next, we have the brand discount versus the cost of goods sold. So the total goods sold are 700 and the rest are displayed over here. Next, we have the total sales by product. And lastly, we have the trends over time per segment for the average sales. So we have our report ready, and now let's just go ahead and publish this as a dashboard. So I'm going to click on Share and click Publish Dashboard. I'm going to name this dashboard as the Financial Dashboard, and I'm going to publish the dashboard. So at the moment, I don't want to share it with anyone, and this is how our dashboard looks like. Pretty good, right? So thank you for watching the Capstone project, and I'm sure that it taught you a lot.